Hello there everyone, I am the Warner Brother, and I'm here to announce a couple of new films coming out for the Harry Potter universe. We're doing a movie on Quirrell. Yeah, Quirrell, everyone's favorite nervous professor. Do you remember him? We'll be doing all kinds of insight into his family connections, learning how he's related to the Dumbledores and the Lestranges. We will also be wondering some more about his knitting patterns, something that was never detailed in the original book. It will be coming out next year, and it'll be a 5-part series that will go on until the next decade. And then we have another film series coming out, a darker toned one, based around the Forbidden Forest, centaurs, werewolves, stumps, and it will all be a multi-film series set over the course of a month, because this needs to be as detailed and explicit as possible. That film series will start in 2025, and it will go on for another 30 years. But the most exciting yet, this summer, we will be doing a Harry Potter film on that flower vase from the first movie that broke when Harry struck a wand at it. We will be looking into his family and how it handled its tragic death. And then we will be doing a multi-film series on that will go on until 2065. Aren't you excited for all these detailed Harry Potter films? Right? It's funny. At the time, it was unbelievable to even attempt something like Harry Potter, to make a film series yearly the way it did. I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I haven't really gotten the chance to talk about it much on this channel, so thanks to Lucas on Patreon for requesting this review. If you want to be like him, go over into my Patreon. You'll get a bunch of perks along with your chance to ask me to review any movie I haven't yet. Don't worry, I have some home media on hand just to watch it at home. Of course, it's on TV and it's released in theaters like, every year now, so you can see this movie series anywhere. But if you want to get the ultimate collection that has literally every single special feature they ever made, this is the one to get. But if you're really crazy, you could also get the mini DVDs, because those were a thing.
In our current world of cinematic universes, you might not fully grasp that in 2001, Warner Brothers was taking a huge risk on Harry Potter. The books were successful, sure, but to plan an entire movie series on the property when the full story hadn't been finished written, and filming the sequels without knowing if the first one was going to be worth the cost, it was mind-boggling. And with New Line Cinema doing The Lord of the Rings the same year, the company wins the award for being the most insane. Alas, it was successful. The movie series was the Star Wars for a generation. It led to tons of merchandise and parodies and spin-offs, and it's all thanks to Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone. I guess the Americans don't know what a philosopher is? It makes sense to hire someone like Chris Columbus to do this series. He's already had adequate experience with children in the past, and for this movie, it was going to be a ton of unknown actors. It was going to take a lot to handle these amateur children, which he successfully did. He loved the first book so much that he carried around when filming, wanting to get every detail as close to accurate as possible. It's not every day that a director will give this much respect to the original writer. It's also strange that the writer was given so much creative control for an adaptation. Top it off with some of the best talents in the business like John Hurt, Alan Rickman, Robbie Coltrane, and John Cleese. This was unbelievable. It seems, though, as the franchise ages, the inaugural film often goes ignored or criticized when compared to the character-driven later installments. I can understand this because the first one used to be my least favorite. It always seemed so slow and focused on explaining things that I didn't need explained, or showing things just for the sake of showing magical things. In a lot of ways, the movie does represent the first book really well. You can tell that this world would become unique over time, but with the original installment, it had centaurs and trolls and even a unicorn, all of which were commonplace in everyday magical tales. I don't know if this was the publishers or the editors pushing JK to do more normalcy in her magical universe so the readers could understand more easily, or if her ideas became more complex over time. Whatever the reason may be, the first movie is there to set up the world and the story. It's meant to introduce this character who is hated in the real world, but finds out he's incredibly famous in a secret magical place. I like the way everything is introduced, with new things popping up around the corner every second. It's classic, just like other children's movies like Willy Wonka or The Wizard of Oz or Mary Poppins. The filmmaking is just as magical as those movies, with many techniques used throughout. This was just as computer graphics were becoming the standard for most special effects, but this still has many other traditional approaches with puppets, green screen, wires, and really awesome lighting tricks. Having just seen this movie recently at a re-release in theaters, I was in awe of how invigorating some of the scenes were. When he first gets his wand, the mise-en-scène of the moment is really one of a kind. And stuff I used to find boring, I now can't get enough of. The Quidditch scene is a perfect example of translating something from the book to film. I never want this scene to end. I thought all of this would have aged more, and yeah, some of the computer effects look a little dated, but it's balanced so well with the in-camera effects that most of the time it can be ignored. It never takes me out of the movie. The acting can be subpar from the younger actors. They'd only get better as time went on, so it's understandable. The older actors all fit in their roles perfectly though. This is some of the best casting ever. It really does feel like lightning in a bottle. The music is honestly some of John Williams' best work. I'm surprised he's managed to create so many unique themes this late into his career, and it's become iconic. The rest of the series would bend and make it different, and while I love so much of the music from the series, I think the first movie still has the best score. The only thing that doesn't work is with the characters, who weren't really allowed to be fleshed out yet, and with the climax, which goes rushed. I can't take some of this stuff seriously, especially when Ron wants to be a self-sacrifice. The way some of these scenarios are set up make you question why things can't just be done differently. Like, hey, why can't they walk around the statues? I know, it's magic. They can't, but look at how this room's set up. I feel like it could have been done differently. I suppose it's because some of the later movies had way better plots and sequences, and this one was just meant to set up the world, so trying to finish it off with a conclusive story can be difficult. The villain always seemed underwhelming, and for a movie that was already pretty long, I was hoping for something more exciting than this rushed climax. I guess we'd have to wait for the sequel for that.
This is still an excellent film. It will stand the test of time. It is a children's classic. It stands in line with many other children's classics. It's just not my favorite Harry Potter film. Over time, the series would get a lot more darker, character-driven. They would go into many themes, genres, and different storylines. I think if this one was released without the Harry Potter name or the book series to back it up, I think it would have flopped. I think it would have been one of those mysterious box office bombs that would later gain a huge cult following. But as is, I think the reason people overlook it is because it's just so different from how the series eventually evolved. So what I would say to you is, if you're a Harry Potter fan or a fan of cinema in general, I would give this movie another watch, but try to take the other movies out of your mind when watching it. And if you get a chance, see it on the big screen.
Thank you for watching the video. A special thanks to Movie Johnson, Ryan, and Lucas for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd like to be like them and get exclusive access to content and blogs, and even request reviews monthly, please click on the Patreon link, and thanks for your support.